I'm going to start the recording for us. I want to thank everyone for joining us who's here this evening. First week back to school and um, all of that. And thank you so much for joining us. And thank you so much to Karissa Desiderio, who is going to be talking today to us about navigating the waiver system. I will monitor the chat as well. So if anyone wants to put things in the chat, that is also an option. And I'm going to hand it over to her to introduce herself and lead us through this.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I own Cypress Support. We do supports coordination services for people that have intellectual and developmental disabilities. And we cover mostly the southeastern region. So Delaware County, Chester County, Montgomery County, and then I have one solo guy in Monroe County that I couldn't get rid of when he moved, and happy to keep him. So I was asked by HMS to present today about services that we provide, but is also just provided by any supports coordination through waivers, which are Medicaid dollars that are normally done after school age. So when your child is exiting. But I also wanted to highlight certain services that you can access before age 21. So I have a presentation, but I like to have more conversational presentations like this where feel free to stop me at any time. If you have any questions, even if they're just specific to your kid, I'm happy to answer all of them, especially because we have a smaller group. But I just kind of want to go through the presentation and highlight some key areas that I think would apply to HMS students. And we certainly have HMS students that we support, quite a few now, actually. And we have some alumni as well. So we're very familiar as a team. I say we, I have 5 employees that work for me that are coordinators. So we're very, very familiar with HMS students as a whole. So, this kind of covers broadly the supports that would be needed, but obviously everybody's nuance in terms of specific supports that would benefit your kid. So just a little bit of background about myself. I started Cypress Support about 7.5 years ago. I've been in the disability field for almost 20 years. I started doing direct support with some guys in Southern Chester County that have autism, and they just made me fall in love with the system and working with that clientele. And then I kind of made my way through Devereaux and did employment-based supports. And then for 6 years, I was an adult advocate at a nonprofit in Delaware County for people with disabilities. It was the ARC of Delaware County, if you're familiar with those chapters. They've renamed since then. And then I discovered I could do this as a profession and really liked the advocacy part and getting people the services they need and getting people from point A to point B, especially the transition age kids, because that's such a daunting task of getting them from a well-supported school like HMS into the adult realm and getting the waiver and just really hand-holding families through that process, because it can be really scary and there's so much to it. So that's a little bit about me. But so some of these topics we're going to cover are school age supports. I'm sorry if you already know some of this stuff. We find that some families that come to us don't really understand what is available, or if they understand that it's available, how to kind of use it in their favor when they're advocating for waiver funding later. So I want to talk about that as not only a support, but how we use it to push for services later. Definitely we'll cover the waivers that we oversee. There are more waivers in the service system, but we only cover the ones that serve people with ID and autism. And then we'll talk about participant directed services, how you can use that model, because what we find with HMS students is that doing a very traditional model of service is not always ideal. So doing more a la carte and kind of building your own program has been successful. We'll highlight briefly on employment, just because it's something that we really find our families want to pursue. And maybe we start with volunteering first, but just to kind of highlight employment services. And then Social Security benefits, what those look like, different kinds. The WIPA program, which are basically benefits counselors. And then what supports coordination itself does, if you're not already familiar with that. So The types of supports that we see mostly from HMS students are nursing. I would assume there are students in HMS that would benefit or do receive behavioral supports as well. So those are the two options that we find most helpful. And within that, there's some other ones called home health aides, where they're one-to-one supports in your home. A lot of these services, you will have to be present, or a caregiver would have to be present to transfer the skills. But all of this can be accessed through your insurance. And specifically for the behavior health supports, if you need more specialized ABA services, that's going to be a segment of the Medicaid support. And so this chart on the next slide goes over the names of the companies, and those are the links on the side. So I'm going to send this to Teresa when I'm done so it can be dispersed. But so there's two components of your Medicaid or any insurance. There's the actual medical part, and then there's the behavioral health part. So you would have to actually go to these companies to get those services. The way we use these supports is that we really emphasize having the need met in the insurance, because once you are ready to turn 21, or your child is ready to turn 21, these services completely go away overnight. So we say, use what you have. And then once your child turns 21, our goal is to have a waiver ready. And they could still be in school and have a waiver. Don't let anybody tell you, oh, you have to be out of school to get the waiver. That is not the case. We have many families that we've served that have waivers of all variety, not just the small one. Get that before they exit school. And it's for different reasons for different families, but it is something that happens. And a lot of it depends on this. So making sure you're using what you have, and then working with the supports coordinator to say, okay, my child's going to turn 21 in a year. I would give yourself a lot of time and start planning for getting that waiver. Now, if your child's still in school, you could probably get by with the smaller waiver that we're going to talk about. But ultimately, when your child is done school and completely exits, you're going to need a consolidated waiver. I haven't met an HMS student yet that wouldn't need that, just because of the complexities that usually come with those students. So your supports coordinator should help you access these, but you will have kind of a heavy hand in contacting the insurance companies, discussing coverage for those services, and also meeting with different provider agencies that provide both of these services, and making sure you're happy with what you're getting. I will say that for the behavioral health side, it is difficult right now to find staff, to find the right BCBAs and registered behavior technicians. It's difficult, especially because you're going to probably be looking for after school hours and weekends, which is what everybody wants. So just forewarning, nursing is the same, because again, after school, weekend hours, unless your child's home with you during the week for some reason. But this improves once they're in the adult world, because you're getting those big chunks of time. So just keep that in mind. It can be very frustrating, but really lean on your coordinator. And if they're not capable, that's when you can ask to switch, or ask for a supervisor's help that is more knowledgeable. Okay, and in addition to that, a lot of the counties, I believe all of them, have what's called FSS funding. It's a very small grant that's given out every year at the turn of the fiscal year flip. So July 1st, new money is issued out. You do have to wait until that county's budget is approved so the money flows out, but it's used for respite. So babysitting, someone to just be there, a non-skill aid really. Although you can, like, we have families that have a nurse, or they have OTs, someone more skilled. It depends on who you have. It doesn't have to be someone skilled or non-skilled. It could be your own kid. Like if you have other children, it could be family, neighbors, whoever you trust to be with your child while you have a break. You can go on vacation. You could go run some errands, whatever that respite looks like for you. It can also cover camps that aren't funded through the school district. So like ESY wouldn't count, or HMS, that's what you guys kind of do, right? Like the respite that is provided at HMS. I know that's covered through the school too. Trying to think what would be applicable because every school's a little different. So I guess in this situation, it would be just external camps. It would cover things like that. And like I said, family aid. So ongoing care where maybe once a week or something, you have someone come over and just be with your child while you're cooking dinner, just to have another set of hands. It is a small amount. Generally, the counties we work with is like no more than $2,000 a year. So really try to plan out your whole year of what you would need and ask for more than you think you might get approved for. Reach for the stars and let them negotiate you down because you never know what. And always get there early. As soon as that money becomes available, submit that year's worth of time to your supports coordinator, and then they'll get it up to where it's supposed to be. Every county is different like that, so check with your coordinator on how to, excuse me, how to access that money. Any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Does this make sense? Okay. So I would also say if you are not already hooked up with a supports coordinator and a supports coordination company, you need to absolutely do that. Do not wait till the last minute. Do not wait until they're a year out from school. HMS is very good at making sure you guys are hooked up. So I'm confident that you all probably are. And if not, definitely get on it as soon as possible because that coordinator, or at least the company in general, because there is turnover in this industry, can follow your child along. They can come to IEP meetings. HMS is always very welcoming to us. And it's a good opportunity for your coordinator to really understand your child. HMS has such wonderful supports that if we can really understand how those supports are used, we can try to replicate them into the adult world. There is a way to have like OT, speech, PT, and communication supports in the waivers. So, understanding how those programs are being used or devices that they have can really set the coordinator up to have those pieces in motion for when your child exits school. So these are the eligibility requirements to get into supports coordination and also to get a waiver. Generally, you shouldn't have a problem with any of these things, but just making sure your child's evaluations are updated within the last 2 years if you're applying for a waiver or supports coordination. Re-evaluations, unless the testing was done more recently, are not always taken. They have to be fresh evaluations. And you don't have to do the whole thing. They don't have to do all the educational stuff. It can be just the IQ and the adaptive pieces to qualify. So make sure that is also done. So these are the 3 waivers that we oversee. The first one is the Participant Family Directed Waiver, or PFDS, which you can just know the acronym. People know what you're talking about. It is now at $47,000 per year. And year is July 1st to June 30th. So it's a use it or lose it. You don't roll money over. This will get you maybe part-time. I mean, if you're using nursing or more enhanced level support, you're not getting much. So that's why we really push. If you're going to have a waiver while your child's still in school, this can kind of meet your needs for evenings and weekend stuff. But certainly once your child exits school, this is not going to cut it at all. And in addition to the $47,000, you also get $15,000 just for employment support. So if you have a goal or your child has a goal of working, this can help with helping them find the job, securing the job, and then one-to-one support at the job. And that doesn't come out of the main budget. So it's in addition to. The second waiver is Community Living Waiver, or CLW. That's $97,000 straight. There's no extra money. And this will get you pretty far if you once your child's out of school. It definitely will not cover a full week if you're doing nursing or something a little more enhanced and skilled. But if you have someone that's with your child that is just a high school diploma, maybe you're hiring your own family and friends to support your child, or maybe you are being staff for your child, which we'll talk about later. This can get you pretty far. It'll fill up your week. But it's not getting you like 12 hours a day or anything like that. And then the last waiver is consolidated. That is the creme de la creme, the gold ticket everybody wants. And certainly we really advocate for our HMS students, as every supports coordinator should. It is not capped, it's based off need. We have people on this waiver that have minimally usually budgets of like $150,000 a year. And I have one guy that's behaviorally intense that has $850,000 a year. So when people talk about Medicaid money, this is where it's going. The consolidated really meets everyone's needs. It's pretty intensive, and just lots of nursing hours can be had under there. We have one guy that is 60 hours a week or more. You can do more enhanced levels. So if you have someone that they have a degree in this kind of field, social work, psychology sort of stuff, or maybe they're an OT or a PT, this is where they're really going to shine, and you're going to have a lot of hours. That will fill up your week. So any questions about those? No. I'm not going to go over all of this, but these are the different services that are under the different waivers I just went over. The PFDS list is not inclusive of everything. That's not like the limited list of it. There are some in the community living waiver list that would be able to be used. So this is just what I got offline. But the one things I wanted to highlight, if your goal is to keep your child at home with supports, fantastic. That is always the cheapest way to really stretch your waiver dollars and get a lot of supports. But if your goal is to eventually have your child move out into a residential setting, and that's a loose term for a lot of different options, then you absolutely have to have at least a community living waiver, if probably most of you a consolidated waiver, because it's based off of the need group level. And that's a standardized assessment that you would take once you get the waiver set up, that would give them kind of a scale ranking between 1 to 4, actually 1 to 5 now. And that would determine the cost it would be for someone to support your child in a group home setting. So the higher the need group, the less chance a community living waiver would be able to support them in a residential setting. So I'm assuming most of your children would probably be on the higher end of that, which means the consolidated waiver would be the needed option. And so you'll see these highlighted red areas. So life sharing is one of the services. I likened it to foster homes, where your child would move out into a person's home and be supported in their home. Or you can buy a house and have someone move in with your child in their own home, and you would kind of run it. And or we've had it where the older sibling and your child move out together, and so they're supported by a loved one that they're familiar with. And then supported living is where someone would move out maybe into their own apartment and get like 30 hours a week of support. So I don't foresee that probably being a realistic option. But then you have the residential habilitation. That's your traditional group home. It's run by a provider agency. There's 24/7 staffing. And then in addition to that, that would take care of their housing. You would have other services on top to take care of like the day programming kind of stuff. So that's those pieces. Is everyone like largely familiar with these things? Yes. Okay. So if everyone kind of understands this stuff, I don't want to necessarily spend a ton of time drudging on about things you guys know. So I'm going to go quickly. And then I really want to hear what you guys are interested in learning about, because I could talk all day about all this stuff, but I would love to target what you guys have questions about, or just those like gray areas, or maybe the support you're not getting from your coordinator that I could help with. So I'll go through this and then we can just talk. So some of the services that I think are helpful, and certainly a way to open up a waiver before they're 21, is through assistive technology, which usually can do through the insurance, depending on what it is. Home accessibility adaptations. Do not modify your house without going to your coordinator and asking for this service. This can open up all you need is a PFDS waiver. because you're going to max out at $20,000. And I've seen it where it doesn't have to be a specific thing or like a lift or, tracking or anything. It could be you're putting in a $60,000 ADA bathroom and this is covering 20,000 of the last installment or something. So really maxing that out. And then the different therapies can be put into the waiver once they're done 21. Another really cool service that was introduced a couple years ago is the specialty telehealth and assessment team. That is a monthly service. Is $55 a month out of the budget, which is just minimal. And it allows you to access a virtual doctor if your child is just having some symptoms that aren't emergent, obviously, that you just want them evaluated by a doctor without having to take them to urgent care or the ER all the time. So that would come out of the waiver. They have a really high success rate of treating in-house and not having to send you out. They would send you out if they felt like they couldn't diagnose and help you, but that's a really interesting service that a lot of our families are picking up on. And then the other one is vehicle accessibility adaptations. Again, do not modify your vehicle without talking to your coordinator first and accessing this money. Vehicles are very expensive. It will only support the actual modification. So it won't go towards the purchase of any vehicle though. So just keep that in mind if you're shopping around for something like a wheelchair van or anything of that nature. So this just talks about the individual support plan. If you have a supports coordinator, you're already familiar with this. If you don't, then this is the document. It's very similar to an IEP. It just houses a lot of good information about your child, and it will eventually be where the services are approved. It's accessible to all the providers that would be supporting your child, and it's really kind of the hub of all of their services. So this just kind of goes over some of the categories so you're aware. It's very medically based. It's very, what are their needs? What kind of supports are needed? If you're looking for more enhanced stuff, it's justified through all of this. So, and the supports coordinator is the one that houses this, updates it, and works with the team collaboratively to make sure the information is correct in it. The one part I had mentioned earlier is called participant directed services. This is a model under the waiver that you can use to hire your own staff. That means you can hire your own nurse. You can find an OT, a PT, a speech. You can hire family, friends, other siblings, whoever you want to work for your child. And they get paid through the waiver, and your coordinator would hook all of this up to your waiver services. I will say, if you're not an organized person or you don't want a heavy hand in recruiting staff, training staff, this is not for you, because you are basically running your own little mini company. There is supports like a supports broker that would help you recruit and put out like job postings for you. They would also train you in using this model. So there's a lot of support. They kind of act as like your HR department in a way. If you wanted to do this, this is very popular. About half of our company's caseload uses this model. So I personally would if I had a child in the system. So the two things right now are agency with choice and PPL. Those are just the companies that you would use to execute that service. I'm not going to go into too much detail about the difference between either one of them. I have a chart on the next slide that goes into detail on that. But basically, it just depends on how much control you want, how much involvement. Agency with choice provides you with a coordinator. They are managing progress notes. They are managing timesheets. They are managing compliance things. So you really have a good support person in that. Sometimes they're a little more strict. And we have families that have run into issues with staff getting paid and things. So it comes with its good and bads, I guess. And then PPL is the vendor fiscal model. It's a contracted out company that the state looks at, I think, every 5 years. So that could change. It was Palco 5 years ago. Now it's PPL. And you are, like I said, running your own company. You don't have that coordinator person. You can have that broker, but you are doing it all. You get an EIN number. It is you. So a lot of families like that. They have a lot more control, but there are rules that come with that. And the state's actually cracking down pretty heavily on people that are really kind of just violating it and not following the right rules. So that's stuff your coordinator would be able to talk to you about. And then, like I said, this goes in a comparison between not only PPL and agency with choice, but also just using a regular company. Because a lot of families don't want the headache of hiring their own staff. And a lot of a lot of provider agencies like the Devros, the Melmarks, although we don't really use those too much, they're just bigger names. They will hire staff. So if you have someone you're already using, or you have siblings that would be able to work with your child, a lot of agencies will hire them because they want to not have to hire staff either. So a lot of our families like that. They don't have the headache of all the paperwork, but they get to have their people that they trust supporting their child. So that's something to keep in mind. Any questions? Okay. And just like I said, we'll quickly go over the employment piece. So everyone starts at the Office of Vocational Rehab, OVR. You have to go through that and either use their services and those dollars to support your child in finding a job, getting the job, and keeping the job. Or the OVR counselor you'll get assigned will say, we did an assessment and they're just not ready for part-time work, because that's what you have to be qualified for, is true part-time employment with basically the hope and goal that you would be doing that independently in the future at some point. So we've had it where a lot of our students will go up to the counselor, the OVR counselor, and we'll give them evaluations. We'll talk to them. So we're avoiding having to put our students through unnecessary evaluations just to get the end result of, we just want them to have job coaching and to find a job. Because sometimes OVR can be really arduous and takes forever. So we can kind of circumvent them. That's better. Great people, love working with them, but they're just inundated, unfortunately. And then once you pass through OVR, either use them up until they're exhausted or get a denial from them, then you can go to the waiver and continue the services. And the beauty is that a lot of the OVR companies, so OVR is a payer, just like we're kind of the payer too. They work with other companies like TAL, CIS, the DCIU, that are contracted with them to provide the actual direct support. So most, if not all of those companies, I think at that point are also waiver providers. So you would just carry them on into the waiver and continue doing job coaching or job finding. There is also the option of small group employment. That's been popular with some of our families, where they're not doing one-to-one. They're doing like a coffee cart in a big corporate company or something like that with other people. And that's been really neat too to see. And then always the big question at age 18 for our clients is Social Security benefits. A lot of our families get mixed up between SSI and SSDI because the word disability is in there. Unless you yourself are already retired or on disability, you're going to want your child to apply for SSI. And that's because in order to get SSDI, your child has to have a work history, which I'm assuming none of them have if they're exiting school. Even so, they have to be working 5 out of 10 years. So that probably throws them out of the eligibility for it anyway. Now, if they are, if you yourself are retired or on disability, or you have a deceased spouse, that's their biological parent, or even adoptive parent, I guess, then they could claim disabled adult child benefit, and they would basically be collecting off of that parent's account. So there is that option too. That always pays more than the SSI, but basically when they turn 18 and 1 month, because you want to make sure they're going to be applying under their adult account, not a child account, you can go to your local Social Security office or go online and apply for them. It does take some time. And if you get denied, which you shouldn't have problems as long as you're submitting the IEPs and evaluations, doctor's letters, like whatever you can kind of grab to justify the disability, you should be fine. But if you get denied, there is an appeal process. Definitely do that. There is an attorney we work with. She works on contingency. So if she wins, she gets paid. If she doesn't, then she doesn't collect. And it's back payment that they take a percentage of from the SSI money. So it's nothing out of pocket. Sorry, it's the evening. Nothing out of pocket for you guys. It would just come out of the SSI money if you win. So it's a great thing, and they would have it the rest of their life as long as you just keep up with the paperwork and things that would be needed. And then if your child does end up working, and I'm talking like gets a paycheck, pays the taxes, make sure you report their wages to Social Security. And I gave some different options on how you can do that. So, but if they're not, then you don't have to report anything to them like that. And then this is just a resource. They are benefits counselors. So if your child does end up working, they can kind of help guide you through that, or help guide you through other benefits that they might be eligible for. It's a free resource from the state, and they're really helpful. Sometimes they're inundated. There is also benefits counseling through the waiver. That's a little more consistent and gives you like one person to go to for questions. So there's two options there. And then supports coordination, which is what we do. We are the hub of all the services for waivers. And we're supposed to be anyway, a resource tool for you guys. So if you need services that are, like I said, insurance based, or, hey, my kid wants to, pet horses and have equine therapy, or they really want to go check out this camp, or whatever it is, you should be going to your supports coordinator and saying, my kid has this goal. Are there any services that exist? Because there's grants out there. There are shared trusts that give micro grants for different things that might not be covered under the insurance or the waivers. So there's a lot of resources, and your supports coordinator should be providing you with information. I know for us, we're always sending out email blasts with different updates or different resources or social activities that are coming to our parents. So always be in touch with your coordinator and ask all the questions. And if they're not helping you, then go ask someone else all the questions, because someone should be helping guide you through this. So that's my spiel. I flew through it really fast. So I really want to hear from you guys about your kid, like what's going on, where do you need the help, where are your questions, what do you want to learn about? I would love to be able to tailor some of this to you guys, because this is about you.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi, we have questions. We're Jeff and Karen. Our daughter is Lauren. She's 20. She turned 20 at the end of November, so she'll be 21 this year.
Mhm.
Well, we have a supports coordinator. So we live in Bucks County, and I guess I tried to get her on. I was on a wait list for a couple of years because we're staffing shortage during COVID, and that was a problem. So I guess I'd have to say that she has the supports coordinator for about 4 years. We had the first woman came out to the house twice, I think, and the following time, the same phone number, I get a phone call where they're trying to schedule another appointment, and I just thought it was somebody scheduling on behalf of this woman, but it was a new person they gave us. Nobody told us that we lost the first one.
Mhm.
I don't know what to say. I'm just not confident in our current supports coordinator, and I'm worried that we're behind. She's going to turn 21 at the end of November. I still work, and we're not going to have nursing in the house if we don't have a waiver. And I don't know, is it bad that we're not? It doesn't seem like we've taken enough steps forward toward getting the waiver. I don't know.
Yeah, I would definitely say get with your supports coordinator and maybe their supervisor too if that person's newer. And I don't know what company you're with, but there might be even another level in addition to that to talk to and get like a big meeting together because I mean, if she's going to turn 21 in November and she has insurance-based nursing, then you definitely want to start really pushing for that waiver because she's going to be in school till 22, I'm assuming, correct? So you have
Yeah.
more time for her exiting, but you want to keep those nursing services. And it takes a lot of time to put all that stuff together.
See, that's what we're worried about. And they just, like they don't return his call.
Yeah,
They don't get back to him.
like yeah. For instance, like we were supposed to have a meeting with her. Um, it was like the Monday before Christmas, and she emailed me to set it up, and then she emailed me that morning saying, "Sorry, I didn't get back to you earlier. I was out of the office sick. Can we do it next Monday?" So I'm like, "Sure, that's fine. Lauren's home all day. We'll be here. I work from home." And I said, we'll be here. I said, 1:30 to 2:30 is my lunch break. That's the ideal time, but I'll work around anything else. Never heard from her. Just heard from her today, all apologetic that she hasn't been back in touch. And is there any way we could do it next week? So I don't know. I haven't heard back yet, but
She's really dragging her feet on this.
Yeah.
And I'm really not, I don't live with them. We're divorced, but I'm not, so it's just Jeff and Lauren. I'm
Mhm.
not confident in this person at all. And I don't know where else we can turn because, of course, we live in Bucks. It's the one county you don't deal with.
Yeah. Sorry. It's so far away from I'm in Delaware actually, so that's a bit of a hike. And my team's all down here too. So but that's not to say like I'm happy to help you guys and
Okay.
give you the lingo and whatever. I can definitely do you mind me asking what company you're with?
well, I mean, it's just through the county. It's
Okay.
what it's
But it's not a private company because there
no,
are
it's
No,
not. No, no, no.
okay.
we didn't
So
even know that was an option.
yes, so that might be something worth exploring.
Right.
Like I think Arc Alliance is up that way. They're
I'm
big.
sorry, what's it called?
Arc Alliance.
Park?
Yeah, and I can
So I'm in Bucks and we have a sports coordinator. We're with CareLink, but we just got a new person too, and they were like one of the only companies accepting people in Bucks. So
Okay, what's
we
it
don't
called?
really have a choice to change at this point. Like that's the other thing you keep saying and mentioning, like you can change, but nobody's accepting anybody else. Like
Okay,
so
I'm sorry, what's the
yeah,
name of it again?
CareLink,
Could you spell that?
CARELYNC.
yep.
Thank you.
So I will say that just this month new standards have been set from ODP from the state that force supports coordination to have a referral acceptance rate. So probably is going to be changing because it's pretty high that what we have to do. Like any referrals that come to our door, we have to take like I think it's like almost 70% of them. So probably supports coordination will probably be opening their door, but you're right. CareLink, I don't think turns anyone away. So that might be something to consider.
We had like a whole list and they weren't even on our list of
No.
choices and they were the only place that accepted
Yeah.
anyone. So it's like, great, we have this new person that doesn't really know anything, but we can't switch because there's nowhere to go.
Well, if we have we have a meeting next week, all right. Like if we have I said next week. The problem is Lauren doesn't get home from school until 5, so I don't even know how it's going to work out. But if we do have this meeting next week, what are the things that I need to stress to the supports coordinator?
Yeah,
You
that
know.
she's going to be losing her nursing in November whenever her birthday was. I give her a very specific date of her birthday and say I really need to start planning for a waiver. And you can tell her how many hours a week she's getting the nursing. Is she getting anything else besides the nursing?
No, I
Oh.
guess not. And it's like 61 hours. I think we're at right now.
That's a lot. That's a lot. So they really need to start putting the pieces in place because I will be honest, in the 7 years I've been doing this, this is by far the biggest period of time that the funding has been dry. So you really just need to be a squeaky wheel. I'm talking like an 18-wheeler going down the road at 100 miles an hour, squeaky wheel, like the loudest one in the room. Because when the counties have their list of people, they prioritize it. So it's an ever-changing, moving list. And don't let a coordinator tell you, oh, you're on the puns, don't worry about it. Screw the puns. The puns does nothing. It just alerts the state that there's someone out there that needs something at some point, but just keep pushing her and say, we need this to happen. And like I said, if she's not, then get the supervisor involved, get everybody in there.
Okay.
My question is, if you're still dealing with like our county, have you gone through like the registration process yet, where you like register with the county and then go in and choose your supports coordinator? Because that's part of like the paperwork you fill out when the county does the evaluation.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I did. I did the paperwork,
Okay.
whatever it was, like 4 years ago, I think.
Because it just sounded like, because we had a meeting with a woman that never responded from the county too. And once we finally had that meeting, then we got a new person at a private company, which I think is what Chris was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, you'll always go through the county to do registration. That's a requirement. But yeah, then you can kind of pick. And I apologize, I didn't realize the chat was blowing up a little bit. So I will talk about that piece and then I'll kind of go through the other ones. Megan did say that they have Lenape Valley too. So that's another.
Yeah, like I think we have if Lenape Valley is the branch, I think, of in the county that we have.
That's probably who you have, is Lenape Valley.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's a private supports coordination.
Okay.
Yep. But regardless, you can change.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be, you can just be unhappy and want something better. I would say try to work it out where you are, because at least they're familiar with her, and
Right.
try to do
Okay.
that. You can also ask for an internal change. Whether that be granted or not is based off caseload, but you can say like, look, we really need a seasoned person here.
Right. Because she's getting close to the end.
Yeah.
And we don't have, the finish line is nowhere in sight with these people.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. And then Alex, you asked about how to change. So if you are interested in doing that, you just contact whoever at the county office usually handles the admission. So if that person's still there, you can just go to them and say, I want to switch. There doesn't have to be a reason. They might ask you, but it's just more for notation versus a barrier. And it's usually pretty quick. There's a consent form you would sign. And then that allows the file from the other supports coordination to be released to the new one. And it does take a couple of weeks normally. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, could it all come together in 10 months? Is that unreasonable or?
No, that's a perfect amount of time.
Okay.
That way you don't feel rushed. I always tell families when they're graduating, we use 21 as our graduation marker. We prepare for a whole year because everybody has lives. We have other people in our caseload we have to work with. Holidays are busy. December basically doesn't exist. So it keeps the rush down.
The rush down?
Yep.
Was a rush down.
So cute. And then did we answer questions about the self-directed service, or do you want me to talk about that some more? I saw Pamela ask about that.
We graduated from HMS years ago. Ashley turned 26. But we have self-directed services, and I guess that for you all would fall under like the PPL part. And the bigger budgets because of everything that Ashley needs. And then just to say to parents, like, PPL lost its contract. It had contracted and they lost it to Acumen. And it hasn't all happened in every state, but I know that it's happening in Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Connecticut, Maine. So it's going down, the east. I say East Coast, but whatever. And then to talk about the fact, like, even though they have adjusted, I think that somebody else asked this too. They have adjusted, well, they were supposed to adjust cost of living with Social Security, but what they did, instead of going up, they brought it down in New Jersey. I don't know what they're doing in Pennsylvania, but in New Jersey, even though they, I guess, wavered in the cost of living increase, which should have happened, um, it actually became lower. So
I'm not surprised.
no, I'm not either. But we've been home. I mean, first we had COVID, right? So that happened. Ashley was in the middle of all that, and then we just did self-directed service, and I can't say that it's full of bumps, but I think for parents who have kids at HMS that have intellectual needs and some have behavioral issues, but mostly everybody has medical needs. The bigger budgets, unfortunately, fall in the self-directed services. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not without its flaws, as you're pointing out. But yeah, it's very popular. And so with PPL, you're doing only PPL for your daughter?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see that a lot too.
Only because with that bigger budget, I can then say to the sports coordinator, which we started in September, we want Ashley to go to do equine therapy. And so there's not a lot of places in New Jersey that actually do it. So we got paid, and then we actually pay the people is how we worked it, because it's not even like the list of people. We would have to drive to Pennsylvania to get a company that would bill for Ashley. So I was like, forget it. We'll just do it ourselves.
Yeah.
But it came with the bigger budget, but it also came with I would say, the freedom. I mean, it has its headaches, no doubt. It has its headaches. And, in January, when you're looking for tax seasons, it is the biggest headache for my family to collect everything. But I think now, with everything that's happening at the government phase, it helped more than it hurt, even though sometimes the bigger boulders that you have to get through are big.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Do you find that's a big option that people pick?
Yeah, so we're a small sports coordination compared to some of the bigger names. So we serve like 143 people, and half of them use PPL only. And that's probably, honestly, if you rule out our student age kids, that's a big chunk of them. So, and it's true. Like, a lot of our families, I feel like PPL works very well when you have a good solid group of staff that you've known and are dedicated, obviously, but also when you're not when you're just very consistent in using it. If you're trying to do all these weird hours and stuff, it gets really messy. So, and that's where we see families kind of fail at using it, is if they're just always having backup staff, or they're always kind of up and down with the hours. And it's just because there's rules around it, as you've seen. So it's very easy to kind of slip into messing up those rules. And then we have to have conversations with our families and get them back on track. But it's a great service. Like I said, that's what I would be doing too. And we have amazing supports brokers we work with that really navigate PPL beautifully for our families and are amazing resources to lean on, and we lean on them. So I think that if you're willing to kind of put the effort in and get through those bumps, it really lends its hand to a more flexible life and a very person-centered program that you can build on your own. And I've seen families really build some great stuff and have great teams of people using that. And then Vicky, you mentioned the 30% reduction rule that SSI reduces payment to adult kids living at home. I don't know that rule because we have families that live at home and they get the full SSI amount.
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that the families know that because my son plays hockey with a lot of kids that are adult, a lot of adult have aged out into adulthood. And I'm hearing a lot of parents saying that SSI is giving them a big pushback, even though these guys are 18 and the parents are charging them rent. They're doing all the things they're supposed to be doing. And SSI is still cutting they're not giving them the full payment. And it just, I know I kind of was telling them to go to their what did you call it? Like the service that you guys offer to work through, right, to work through the budgeting of that. So I just didn't know if other people on here, I know that I see some of the names on here do have adult, either still living at home in school or even, but I know when they turn 18, that the parent's income no longer counts. And it's just supposed to be the student, the kid's income. And just to be sure that people fight for that, because it makes me really angry when I hear that people are not doing that. And I did hear you talk about the broker service that the consolidated waiver or the OD waivers offer. I think that's a great service. We're not on that waiver, but I know that that's something that really is helpful, especially when you're doing the self-directed care, right? Is that when that really comes in?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's the only time it comes in, but it's right. Super helpful. We really don't want families doing self-directed without a broker in place.
Right. Okay.
No, thanks. Thank you for pointing that out though. But yeah, definitely with SSI, make sure you are, so the SSI amount right now is $994 for 2026. It changes every year, it goes up. So whatever the new amount is, make sure that you are collecting at least 72% for rent. Now, whether you take that and actually use it towards bills, which is great, or you can put that money in a PA able account, which is a asset that's protected, and it can grow and be used as kind of like a savings account for your kid. You can have quite a bit of money in there. You can never put SSI or Social Security money in a trust. So don't ever do that. But there are other ways, creative ways to kind of protect that money if you feel kind of odd taking it for your kid. But a lot of our families use that to privately pay for different services like equine therapy or babysitters or whatever your child needs. That's what it's used for. So but yeah, if you're having difficulty with the Social Security office, like I said, we have an attorney that we work with that can help guide you through all of that. But definitely keep pushing that. And then
Karissa, let me ask, you said 72%. So that, I think that's where these families are going wrong. They're not charging I think they're only charging them like $500 or something, which is not 72%, but nobody's telling them that it has to be a certain amount. So that was very helpful.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I think 72% I did today was like a little over $700.
Right. So as long as parents know that that's what they have to say, they're charging their stay-at-home kids. Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thank you so much.
Sure. And then just about the brokers some more, that person, they work for a company. They're technically a provider, although there are independent ones out there, and they would just be kind of looped into any PPL services. And their job is to help you recruit staff. Their job is to help train those staff. They can hire and fire. So I wouldn't want to fire anybody, but they can do the dirty work. They can write policies for you, especially if you have bigger teams. You're going to want some more of those like very formal process about expectations around the job, especially if you're hiring people that you don't know, that you are truly interviewing. Let's see what else they do. We have one broker company. They send out weekly updates that have social activities in your area. They have your compliance measures for that week. We have other brokers, they'll call PPL on your behalf and work with those customer service reps to mitigate any issues. That's a huge one. I would get them just for that part. Trying to think. They'll help you with scheduling. They'll help you. I mean, they really are the backbone to PPL. You really absolutely need them. We have families that try to go without them because they want to save a little money in the budget, but it's no go. You don't want to do that. Because truly your supports coordinator, as much as they probably understand PPL or should, they're not going to understand that nitty gritty piece that the broker really gets and is trained on. And then the home modifications, I had a question about that, and vehicle mods. So for vehicle and home well, more so the home modifications, I guess, you need 3 bids. So it's your job to go find companies that do ADA stuff, or maybe they don't. Maybe they just understand what you want and they can implement it. But they have to give you a bid, and then you submit those 3 bids to the county, or your sports coordinator submits them to the county for review, and they will only pick the cheapest of those bids. So we just had this with a family. They wanted to go with a specific company for personal reasons. They got good reviews, what have you. That bid came in as the middle. So we had to ask the lowest bidder, can you just jack up your price by like $500? And they did, and we allowed them to be the lowest one. So there's creative ways around it. The bids do have to be the same project. You can't say, well, this person's working on this and this is it, and that's why the numbers are different. So, but that's the biggest key, is whatever company you want to go with, they have to be the lowest one. So just tell them that. The other catch to this that your coordinator can talk to them about is that they will only be paid after the completion of the project. And completion of the project means the entire project is done. The coordinator has gone out, looked at the project and went, that looks nice. Talk to you, you're satisfied. And then they're contacting the county and say, everything's done, I checked. And then the county issues payment to that contractor. And that can take 30 days for them to get that check. So we've had pretty good success talking with our contractors. They understand, especially if you're doing a bigger project and this is the last installment, because they kind of understand installments take a little time to get to them. But just make sure you're having that conversation up front with any contractors you would work with. The vehicle modifications are a little different. There are specific companies that do that. And I don't remember off the top of my head, but I will send it to Karissa, the list of those, but there's just a couple. And so you don't necessarily, at least the counties we worked with, they didn't require the 3 bids because that's not really relevant in those situations. But again, it's just for the actual modification to the vehicle. So if you're working with a company and you're buying a new car, used or new, they need to segment out the actual modifications that were done on the vehicle. Now, if you're buying a fully loaded car, it already has all the stuff in it, then they need to just separate that out on the like the bill essentially that you're buying the vehicle, versus if you're going and you have a van and you're modifying that van, then obviously that's just what's getting done. So just make sure all that kind of stuff is separated. It doesn't have to equal just the $20,000. It can be above that, and the 20,000 is just contributing to the total cost of whatever the modifications are. So you can always exceed, but you can never like there's no extra money anywhere. But there are grants available. We have one family that's doing this right now, and they're adding an addition to their house for their daughter to be able to access the first floor. And they are going to use the $20,000 to just fund a part of that project. Also,
Yeah.
as
I wish we would have known this before, because we just
every family says that
we just did like a gigantic like addition to the house, we bought a like industrial changing table that goes up and down and folds and does all the things like you would find at a store. And yep. So,
I know. I hate that. I have families that come to me and they're like, I already have the van. I'm like, did you get funding? No. I'm like, oh, no.
well, the reason I ask is because we want to get a Tourney Evo seat installed in my SUV because I can't lift him high enough to put him in that kind of car.
Yeah.
And so that would make it easier. So that since we already own the vehicle, that would be something that we could get funding for.
Yes. Yep. Just for that part. So I will make sure to send out some companies that we've worked with. One in particular that we had 2 modifications go through. And they're local. I forget where that one was out of necessarily, because you would want, if something was malfunctioning, you'd want to go back to that company because I'm sure warranties and stuff. And then the other one was in Delaware. So I don't know where you're located, but that
We're in Bucks, but whatever. I mean, it's fine.
I feel that whatever so much. Our
We
family
drive to Delaware for Nemours all the time anyway, so what's another trip?
right. Okay, so but yeah, there's 2 companies that we work with, and I just
Mobility Works is the one that mostly and they kind of bought up everybody in this area, which is why you can't really get 3 bids anymore. So they work really, really well with all the waivers, and the waivers are know them really well. Most of our families that have used them have not had any problem at all. And there's a lot of different offices. There's one in Cinnaminson, Mount Holly, up in Norristown, all over.
The other question was like, we already have a wheelchair van, but my daughter's also disabled, so she is also like through the county because she has ID. So does it matter who like between the kids? Like I could do both.
Heck yeah, girl, it's 40 grand. Do it.
Okay.
Yeah, get a modification for one and then do the other. And as long as, I mean, your daughter is also in a wheelchair and needs the mod.
She's a part-time wheelchair user, but she walks with crutches.
Okay. Yeah. So as long as the justification's there, yeah, that's great. Yeah, thank you, Vicky. Yes, Mobility Works is the one. And yes, they are super easy to work with. Very, very easy to work with. Let's see here.
And then I just have one more helpful
when you reach out to supports coordination, so like would I just be like, hey, I heard there's this funding for this, like can you help me get started kind of thing? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So there's just, I don't know, Chris, if this goes to the waiver, the ID waivers, but I know the waiver the aging waiver that Anthony's on, that if you do self-directed care and you live with the person who is your primary caretaker, that they are exempt from federal income tax on their pay. Have you ever heard that before?
I have.
So that it's just a form. You have to just contact your support coordinator. They send you a form. And then when you get your pay checks every 2 weeks through PPL, there's no federal tax taken out of it. And that's something that none of the support coordinators ever know. Every time our support coordinator changes, I ask them, do you know this rule? And they always say no, they don't know that rule.
But our broker knows that.
That's what I was about to say. I did not know that until one of the brokers we work with told me that. Yes. That's why we have brokers, because me and my team do not pretend to know everything, but we know all the people that do.
Yeah, that's so great.
It's so much to know. And I mean, like I'm tippy top of the iceberg with you guys right now of the stuff that you can really do. But no, thank you for including that detail, because that's huge. And then Corinne, you asked about the waivers, using waivers while the child's still at school. How would you go about this, and what would you use it for? So a lot of times, so it probably wouldn't apply too much to HMS unless someone had significant behavioral needs, but the medical stuff always has to go through insurance first. It's very clear in the waivers that nobody can get nursing unless it's through insurance under the waivers. So the way that your child would get a waiver while they're still in school is if they turn 21, they're still in school, and their insurance services ended, or they're 21 and they need services because of whatever reason. But that 21 rule does have to apply if you're looking for more medical supports. Now, there is an option where if your child is not behaviorally inclined, but maybe doesn't even need a nurse, just maybe they have a communication device and they need more supports at home. Well, using a communication device, especially some of the ones I've seen at HMS that are just like out of this world impressive, need someone that's more specialized to be with them. So that could be something where you're using in-home and community enhanced. So that's a person that has to have at least a bachelor's degree in a specific field. There's a list on the waiver. Your SC should know all of this. And so they either have to have that, or they can take certification classes to qualify for enhanced. And there are specific ones. We usually use the NAD certification, but that's like a behavioral one. Honestly, don't know what the medical one would be. What you don't want to do is say, I have a speech therapist that's going to work with my child on the communication device at home. I need a waiver. They're going to go, nope, that's an insurance service. Okay, I have an OT. Anything that you know is going to go through insurance, OT, PT, speech. Don't use specific words. Just say, I have this really qualified staff. My kid needs this many services at home because of these reasons. I really want to talk to you about waiver services, because what you want to circumvent any barriers that they're going to put in front of your face of why you have to go over here instead of over here. So that's how we've used waiver services. So just to recap my blubbering, you either are using them at 21 to continued nursing support that you had under the insurance, or if they just need nursing support at home once they're 21, or if they're under 21, if they have some sort of more specialized skill they need to work on that's not necessarily medically based, but maybe has the communication device, or I don't know, maybe they want to, no, you can't even do that. I was gonna say maybe they want to get out in the community more, but that wouldn't be, probably really just the communication device part would be the piece we would use anyway, if they're under 21. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. You're welcome.
I also, Anna has never had a nurse. They've always said that, I'm always at home and I can do any nursing for some reason. But when she turns 21, do they change then? Like, would you say over 21, if someone has a seizure disorder and a lot of medications that they take, could you then use your waiver for actual nursing?
Mm-hmm. Yes. And the differentiation with the 21 marker is that in the waivers, it clearly says below 21, it has to go through an insurance because that's what covers it. Whereas 21 and over, that insurance option is no longer available because they've aged out. So then you can go after the waivers at that point.
Okay. Yeah, I'm in a similar situation to Jeff, or maybe not as similar, but my daughter Anna is 19 and my supports coordinator, I think I've had 7 in the last 2 years. In fact, some of them I haven't even ever met. I've just been told I've got a new one, but by the time I come to meet them, they've changed.
I hate hearing that so much.
Completely bonkers. I don't know what's going on, but it is what it is.
It's an overworked, underpaid job. I will be honest. And
I did imagine it wasn't rewarding, I have to say.
And that makes me sad too, because if you're in it for the right reasons, it's seriously the most rewarding job I've ever had. And you really have to love working with people, obviously, but the thrill of the chase is what keeps me going every day. It's like getting that victory over the county on some sort of battle with a family, or, getting that email about, oh, here's a consolidated waiver for your client, and making that phone call and hearing the joy on the other end. Those are the moments. So, and I will say, I get the benefit of having those moments because I'm at a level of running a company but and I treat my employees in a way that I don't think other supports coordinators in bigger organizations are treated. Like they're more just a number. I mean, we're seriously a family here, and we don't have turnover. Not yet, knock on wood. Everyone has stayed. So that is very, very common. And part of the reason why I started my own organization was because I kept hearing how much turnover is going on, and it just continues. So I would say the same thing I told Jeff is that if you're not happy, I mean, you guys do have a little more time than they do. Hopefully you get someone that can kind of settle in and be with you guys for a little while. But if you're coming to that point where she's going to be 21 and it's not happening a year out, then you need to either change, ask for a coordinator, or keep bringing in the supervisor.
Okay, well, thank you for your answer. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Any other questions or topics I can cover? No? Alex, you have any more pieces that you want me to cover? Or Teresa?
No, not that I can think of. Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, I truly love meeting all of you, and we love HMS so much, truthfully. Every time I go there to visit our clients, I think I learned something new, and it's just really cool. I'm very, very impressed by HMS's program and what they're able to do and just the innovations that they have. And I would love if they enter into the adult world, and I'll say that till I'm blue in the face, because then we don't have to have so many conversations with our HMS families. We can just have a place that you guys just naturally gravitate towards that kind of keeps giving you that support. So I'm going to keep knocking on that door until they answer. But till then, yeah, just keep being the voice for your family or your child. Ask all the questions. Even if you think it's a silly question or you're like that service can't possibly exist, ask it anyway. And you don't have to know all the lingo. We tell our families that come to us, your job is not to know every acronym and every word out there. Your job is to say what your kid needs and allow people to say, okay, here are these services that exist that could probably fit that goal. So, I mean, educate yourself, definitely network, connect with other families, get in Facebook groups, meet with your legislators. We have families that are super connected to their legislators and lean on them when they need help. That has been pretty impactful. You're welcome to talk to me if you need more questions. You have more questions that need answers, or you're getting stuck with supports coordination and they're just telling you no to everything. Please feel free to reach out to me and let me know. We are accepting clients if you are in the counties that we serve. So just throw that out there. We are doing fine business-wise, so it's not a plug, but I just hate hearing the things that you guys are saying with turnover and people not doing their jobs, and it devastates me. But so we're here in any way that you need.
Thank you so much for joining us today and everybody for being on the call. And then you'll get your slides to me and contact information. I will make sure that goes out to everyone along with this recording. So if you can go back because I know that sometimes I need to do that too so that I can jog my memory of the things. But appreciate you so much, and we'll send any other questions or contacts through as soon as we have it. And yes, I'll share her contact information, Corinne, when I get the recording up. So
yeah, it's also in the last slide of my presentation to our website, my phone number and my email. If you do try to call me, I am a millennial. I text. So if you want to talk to me on the phone, just text me and say, hey, this is so-and-so from that HMS thing. Like, could we schedule a call? I will definitely do that and then talk to you on the phone. But just fair warning. But yeah, thank you so much for your time today, guys. And good luck with your adventures with your kids.
Okay,
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye.
Karissa.
Thank you.
Bye, Lori.